today I'm going to be making vegan quiche. And you're like, what, vegan quiche? Because vegan quiche is supposed to be eggs and cheese, but of course there's a vegan version for that. So I'm going to show you how. So the first thing I'm going to do is take 1.5 cups of besan, or what we call chickpea flour, or rather what we call besan and what the world calls chickpea flour. And we're going to use exactly 1.5 cups of that. So I'm going to dump that in here. And then I'm going to use, so we're making a vegetable quiche, so I'm going to use a little bit of capsicum and then some red onion. And my partner Indra, who's shooting this video, he hates red onion, so he's cringing right now, but I mean, I love red onion. And some tomatoes, and I have some more of that mixed vegetables that I'm putting in there. And the Western version usually has parsley in it, but I prefer cilantro, and it's much more easily available here. So I'm going to use a bunch of cilantro or dhania patta and some green chili, because this is a desi version of a quiche and the Europeans are like, WTF. And now we're going to use some nutritional yeast. And if you're vegan, you already know that nutritional yeast is something that we use to give a cheesy kind of nutty flavor. And it's becoming slightly more accessible in India, but it's still expensive to get. But I got mine from my mom because she is visiting me from the US. So I'm using about 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast.
That's 2 tablespoons?
You don't, yeah.
Okay.
And you don't have to use it at all. And then there's something that you definitely don't have to use, but I'm going to use because this thing happened to me today, which is Shilpa Mogulshari, who runs Just Amazing, which is a line of vegan nut butters, was experimenting with cheese at home and got me a vegan mozzarella sample, and it tastes so good. So I'm going to crumble some of her vegan mozzarella into this. And of course, I mean, not everybody has a vegan cheese fairy who comes and gives you samples like that on a random Friday. So you do not have to use this. It'll still taste wonderful, I promise. But because I have it, I have to use it. So I am going to put that in there just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to use a blend of spices. So over here we have things like salt and garlic powder and Italian seasoning and stuff like that. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm using. So I'm using garlic powder that I got from Happy Healthy Me. I'm using a Kia blend of garlic bread seasoning. You can just use any Italian seasoning or oregano. I have some dried basil and a little bit of nutmeg, and then just salt. And you can also put pepper, and you can put whatever spices you want actually. So I am doing that. Boom. That's in there right now. So the water ratio is exactly 1.5 cups. So the exact amount of chickpea flour I'm using that much of water. So I'm going to pour that in. Okay. And looks like a goopy mix, but we're going to blend that in nicely. So see, it already looks like cheesy and eggy, but it's 100% vegan. No animal products in here. And nice and frothy too. So I've heard if you use kala namak, which is called black salt here that we use, if you use that, apparently it gives you that eggy taste because it has sulfur, you know, whatever, chemistry, right? So I really don't want that typical eggy taste anyway, so I'm not putting kala namak, and also I don't have kala namak at home right now. So, but if you want to, you can experiment with that. And then I'm putting a dash of olive oil. You can use any oil you want, really, just a little bit. You mix that up and you're done. This batter is done. So now what you'll do is you will line this in. So I have these little trays here filled out. So it is going to be liquidy, right? So don't worry, this is going to actually bake up and look absolutely like quiche. Okay. If you don't have these little liners, and if you have just the muffin tin, which I have over here, I've oiled this, like this got a solid layer of olive oil in here. And even if it's non-stick, I recommend you do that because it's going to stick and it's going to be really hard to pop out. So I think I have just enough for one more. So that's it. So now the last thing about this is that we're going to put this in the oven at 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 250 degrees Celsius. And that's actually the highest heat I've ever used. I've never used that kind of temperature for my baking, but it's recommended for quiche. You're going to preheat your oven at 250 degrees Celsius, and then you're going to pop it in for about 12 to 15 minutes, depending on the power of your oven. And that's it. You're going to have vegan quiche, and it's going to be delicious. It's great for breakfast. It's great for tea. And I'm going to update with the finished pictures of these babies on my blog, so stay tuned. And if I can figure out video editing, I'm actually going to stitch this video together too, to show you everything, but that's probably not going to happen. So thank you.